Hello everyone, Roy Kerckhoffs here. Today I'm going to color my piece that I call Cardiff 13. This tower is at Cardiff State Beach in Cardiff-by-the-Sea, California. All of the foreground here is Cardiff, and then in the background here this is San Elijo State Beach, and in the far back here this is Swami's. Going to color it with acrylics, painting the sky with acrylics, with opaque acrylics, having a nice subtle gradient going from top to bottom, and then the rest I'm going to color it with acrylic glazes. So let's do it. So let's start with mixing some paint. This is French ultramarine white and a tad of black, just to desaturate it a little bit. And then I'm using a 1.5 inch brush to add the paint to the canvas. So I start at the top with the darkest blue, and then I'm going to add more layers with lighter blues towards the bottom, also adding more acrylic medium, so it goes from opaque to translucent, transparent, near the horizon. So this is acrylic. Actually, it's the first time I'm putting in a sky like this with acrylics. Normally I do it with oils, because as you know, oils, they blend better. You get a more gradual gradient. However, if you keep your acrylic nice and wet, you're still able to blend them to a certain extent. And that's what I'm doing in this video. I add enough water with a little spray bottle, and if you're fast enough, you can still get a reasonable blend. Also, it doesn't have to be a perfect blend, a perfect gradient. I like it when you can see that it's actually painted on, and you can see, like here, you can see you can still get a decent blending by putting on the next layer of color and then mixing it with the previous layer on the top. And then I'll keep doing that till I reach the hills in the distance, the bluffs in the distance. I haven't added any acrylic medium yet. I'll do that like about halfway down the photo. So again, I'm adding more white to the mix. And since this is a lot of the same steps, I'm speeding it up a little bit here. And again, still using the previous mix of colors and adding just white paint to it. And at some point it gets really light, and that's also then when we'll add that acrylic medium. So that's a golden acrylic medium, or glazing glass glazing liquid as it's called. and that way you get a nice transition from like a painted in sky towards the part where there's mostly photo, the like the structure of the photo. So now it's time to add some acrylic medium. It looks white. Actually it is white, but it turns, it's actually slightly transparent when it's still wet, but it will turn completely transparent when it's dry. So, and doing it like this, you get a like a nice transition to a translucent sky, translucent paint in the sky, blending the parts nicely together, the painted in sky with the photo underneath. So again, I added more acrylic medium, and at some point in the last step it's pretty much like maybe 95%, 99% acrylic medium and a little bit of that very light blue color. And then that concludes the gradient, going from opaque to transparent. And then still trying to blend a little bit together with the previous layer that I put in. This is that last step with mostly acrylic medium and just a tiny bit of paint from that last mix. So painting in the sky, that took the longest to doing this whole piece. And now the rest of the image is going to be colored with acrylic, mix of acrylic medium and paint. So I use a lot of acrylic medium and just a tad bit of paint, which gives it a very nice, which creates a very nice translucent glaze. So for the beach here, I'm adding a very light burnt sienna. And of course, the more acrylic medium, the lighter, the more transparent it gets. So especially in this case for the beach, it's very translucent, so I use a lot of acrylic medium and just a tad bit of paint. And you can see it, you can color the beach that way. This is also my favorite color to color beaches with, burnt sienna. What I did here, I added a tad of yellow, which gives it a little bit of a raw sienna color to it. Other times I add a little burnt umber to it, which makes it a little bit more brown. And then I just fill up the whole beach with that color. And then in the back here I use a smaller brush to get around the details, especially like under the Lifeguard tower. There's a few seagulls that I was trying to avoid. And then I add some of that light burnt sienna also to the bluffs in the background. It's okay to go over the darkest parts where you don't really want to paint, but because it's so dark you won't see it, so it's okay to just go over the like the steel bars that the Lifeguard is sitting on, just with that color. And then careful with the seagull that's sitting there. Kind of want to try to keep that white. And then in the distance I'm trying to put on that color even lighter to keep that atmospheric perspective going. In the end I will also add a tad of green to the vegetation on the bluffs, and by going over it with a little bit of burnt sienna first, it will desaturate that green a little bit. And then with an even smaller brush I'm going in between the railing to add some color to the bluffs, that burnt sienna. And I'm trying to avoid to go over the lightest parts of the railing. It actually makes a big difference when that looks nicely untouched and the rest has some color to it. And then it's time for the next color. This is phthalo blue. The phthalo blue is a very strong color, so actually I need only just the tip of the side of the brush, and that's all I use. And you can see this already gives a lot of color. And I want this ocean to be very light. To get a very subtle light blue for the ocean. And this is phthalo blue is more green, towards green, than the ultramarine I use for the sky. So it's not the same blue. And then for the towers in the distance, I will also add that same phthalo blue, because the towers actually really do have those colors. But this tower 13 here has more of an aquamarine look to it, so I'll add a tad of yellow. And of course I'm not coloring the whole ocean just like that. That would look a little odd. So I'm trying to avoid, or not trying, I am avoiding the breaking waves and the widest parts and the lightest parts of the ocean. It actually gives it a like more realistic look to it. Of course you're free to color the whole thing if you like. Actually, that color of phthalo blue will look very nice saturated on the whitest parts, but I am going for a bit of realism here. A lot of times I also use phthalo blue for the sky, but I want to change up things a bit, and I thought having a couple of different blues in this image will be nice. And we're almost done with the ocean. I used a long lens to get this image, because when you're actually standing near Tower 13, that Swami's looks a lot smaller in the far distance. By using a long lens and standing far away from this Tower 13, you get everything looking a little bit bigger. So Swami's in the back there, the light gray bluffs are a little bit more pronounced this way. So I was actually standing pretty far away from Tower 13 also. Using a wide angle lens right up to 13, this would have given a totally different look. Okay, so now I added some yellow to that mix with phthalo blue, and that gives a nice aquamarine that I will add to this Tower 13 now. And typically I start at the bottom of the tower, because I kind of want to try out what that color looks like. And I don't mind if I say have a color that's slightly off. It's okay to have a few different colors, especially when it's like located like so low on the tower. I kind of can check out what the color is that I just created. So if I'm not happy with it, I can still change the paint a little bit and go with a different color for the rest of the tower. However, I liked it. This was a good color, so I kept using it. And then I'm using a smaller brush. It's probably like 1/4 of an inch or so. Because I again here, I'm trying to avoid going over the railing. And of course also avoid going outside the tower. Like I'm staying within the lines, so to speak. And so I work my way up, going from section to section between the railing. So as I mentioned earlier on, this is Cardiff State Beach. There's towers here that go from 11 to 15. 11 being more south to the back of me and 15 more north. Like 14 and 15 are not visible here in this photo. And the towers that are in the far distance there, those are on San Elijo State Beach, and that starts at Tower 16. So it goes from 16 through 19. And between these two beaches here is the San Elijo Lagoon. Well, the opening towards the San Elijo Lagoon. And Tower 16 is like right next to that. It's pretty shallow there. You can actually walk, but you have to go through water. Probably knee deep or waist deep to get from Cardiff State Beach to San Elijo State Beach. My daughter and I like to go stand-up paddleboarding here sometimes, or boogie boarding. One time it was a little tough to get out with the stand-up paddle board, so we actually also took our boogie boards with us, and we did that instead. At low tide, that beach gets very wide, and at high tide, depending on how high it is, the waves can actually crash into the bluffs. There's no bluffs here at Cardiff State Beach. The Highway 101 actually goes right next to it. And most people know San Elijo State Beach because of the campground. That's on top of the bluffs. And then there's nice access from the campground down to the beach with these wooden stairs. There are several of them. I actually have some shots of that too. And there's also a video where I went to take like a very long shot of one of the stairs close to Tower 18, and I took my daughter with me to for that photo session. Okay, so now it's time for some green on the bluffs. So this is oxide green. It's not that strong of a pigment, so we can actually use quite a bit of it. Still, I want to go subtle here, especially with this green on the bluffs here, and so it's a pretty subtle mix, so it's still very translucent. Might be hard to see here, but that green is there. And that was the last part of the piece to do, so now we have to frame it. Okay, the piece is all ready. Put a nice boundwood floater frame on it. So this is a black and white photo printed on canvas, and then I put like a gradient going from opaque acrylics to translucent acrylics in the sky, which gives it a little nice touch. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you next time.